He looked out onto the Gulf of Khel, where patches of mist drifted above the dark surface. Then his eyes dropped to the pier, once the pride of the port city that had been leveled by the late autarch's cannon and imagers. Most of the stone pillars that supported the pier remained solid, but not all. The stone-paved surface of the long pier was pitted, and many of the gray paving stones were cracked. A few were shattered. Almost every stone showed signs of fire, either in the ashes in the mortared joins between the stones, or in blackened sections of stone. The wooden bollards were all charred, those that remained. One section of the pier, some 200 yards out from the shore, sagged almost half a yard over a 20-yard stretch. The Zephyr, the large three-masted schooner that had brought Quaeryt, his imagers, and first company to Kefria, lay anchored a good half-mil out from the pier in the now quiet waters of the Gulf of Kefria. Quaeryt took a slow, deep breath, then concentrated on the section of the pier where it joined the harbor boulevard to the first charred bollards, roughly 50 yards away. The briefest flash of light flared across the first section of the pier, and then the gray stone was shrouded in a white and cold fog that drifted seaward with the slightest hint of a land breeze. When the after-image of the flash subsided and the fog had dispersed enough for Quaeryt to see, he smiled. He hadn't even felt any strain, and the first 50 yards of the stone pier looked, and were, as strong and as new as when they had been first constructed centuries before. He waited a bit for the frost on the gray stone to melt away, then walked carefully to the end of the section he had rebuilt with his imaging. Once there, he concentrated once again on the next section of the pier. After the second imaging, he did feel a slight twinge across his forehead. Rather than immediately press on, given the length of the pier requiring rebuilding, Quaeryt lifted the water bottle from his jacket pocket, uncorked it, and took a swallow of the watered lager before recorking the bottle and replacing it in his pocket. "Take your time. You've got all day if you need it." He glanced toward the fort, where Velora was, he hoped, taking her time and preparing for the day. He tried not to dwell on the events that had caused her to miscarry their daughter, but he had seen the darkness behind Velora's eyes when she'd thought he wasn't looking. Then he walked slowly to the end of the second rebuilt section, trying not to think about how much of the pier remained to be reconstructed, a good 400 yards more extending out into the waters where the river Lar and the Gulf of Khel met and mixed. He glanced to the west, where he could barely make out through the morning mist the low smudge of land that had once held Ephra, before the autarch's imagers and cannon had destroyed it.